Outside a major global sporting event, the physical scale is staggering. Hundreds of thousands of fans move like a tidal wave toward the stadium gates. The Cricket World Cup consistently commands a viewership well over 1 billion people. It's a massive cultural phenomenon, driven predominantly by the intense passion of the South Asian subcontinent. The FIFA World Cup can match that intensity person for person, drawing its own global audience in the billions. If you look purely at raw human attention, these two tournaments appear to be absolute equals. Yet when you compare the actual prize money awarded to the champions, the FIFA payout completely dwarfs the Cricket World Cup pool, often by hundreds of millions of dollars. This gap comes down to the way these two organizations have constructed their internal financial engines. At the core of this gap is an overarching trade-off governing both events: global breadth on one side and regional density on the other. Take a look at these two donut charts, comparing total revenue. The size difference between the circles is massive, but notice the highlighted slices. Both organizations allocate a similar, calculated percentage to the prize pool, taking an identical proportional cut of their respective pies. To understand why FIFA's pie is exponentially larger to begin with, we have to evaluate the specific organizational architectures of the ICC and FIFA. Solving this discrepancy requires looking past the hype of the matches to examine 3 specific pillars: the broadcast rights model, the global sponsorship ecosystems, and the strategy of team scarcity. Let's start with how the games reach your screen. FIFA licenses its media rights individually to hundreds of distinct, wealthy nations, rather than negotiating a single global broadcasting deal. This map illustrates multi-market bidding. Forcing countries to bid against each other creates massive competition across strong currencies, driving up prices. The trade-off is administrative overhead. Managing 200 distinct contracts requires massive legal teams, but the resulting revenue ceiling is astronomically high. The International Cricket Council takes a vastly different approach. Their broadcast model relies on the Indian market for roughly 70 to 80% of their total media rights revenue. This yields a highly lucrative, centralized deal, but it ties the sport's global valuation directly to the strength of a single developing economy and a single currency, the rupee. Managing one dominant media landscape is absolutely easier than navigating FIFA's chaotic web of global contracts. The risk is that it completely lacks a diversified economic portfolio to buffer against local market fluctuations. A reliance on a single currency places a hard mathematical cap on the total possible revenue, regardless of how many billions of passionate fans reside inside that single market. The second pillar is the sponsorship ecosystem. FIFA mandates strict global exclusivity, offering Tier 1 status to only a highly select group of corporate partners. Corporations pay an ultra-premium price for this setup. They get unfiltered, monopolized access to every demographic on Earth simultaneously, without local competitors crowding the frame. The trade-off of the FIFA model is that it completely prices out regional brands. It heavily commercializes the sport from a top-down perspective, often at the expense of local market identity. Cricket's sponsorship model embraces the opposite strategy. It leans heavily into localized regional brands like technology platforms, local consumer goods, and betting companies for South Asia. This provides these specific brands with incredibly deep, highly effective market penetration directly into the world's most densely populated consumer base. The cricket model is perfectly optimized to capture local consumers, but because it lacks a unified global reach, it fails to attract the mega budgets of top-tier Western corporate sponsors. Without those massive checks, the total prize money remains suppressed. Finally, we look at how the tournament formats themselves dictate value. FIFA recently decided to expand the World Cup to 48 globally distributed teams. By including nations with massive populations, even if they have lower historical success in the sport, FIFA intentionally creates entirely new, highly lucrative broadcast markets. The trade-off is that expansion dilutes the raw athletic quality of those early round matches. But strictly from a business perspective, it maximizes global ad inventory and ensures coverage across every major time zone. Cricket takes a restrictive approach. The ICC fiercely protects a smaller, elite pool, typically keeping the tournament limited to around 10 to 14 highly competitive nations. This guarantees high-stakes matches every time teams take the pitch. It ensures games feature historic rivals, locking in maximum engagement from established fan bases.
But that elite scarcity restricts the ICC's ability to sell broadcast and ad rights into non-competing, high GDP markets. It keeps the sport's overall financial reach securely boxed in.
This quadrant chart maps both business models, plotting viewership density horizontally and geographic reach vertically. FIFA lands in the upper right quadrant, giving it high reach and density. The ICC pushes to maximum viewership density, but barely rises on geographic reach. The price-money gap reflects the mathematical reality of these specific market placements. An internationally diversified financial portfolio will mathematically out-earn a regionally concentrated monopoly, no matter how staggering the raw headcount in that single region might be. For a global brand optimizer, a business that requires immediate awareness across 5 continents simultaneously, FIFA is the only viable vehicle. To get that scale, global investors must accept the astronomical premium price tag required to buy into that unparalleled breadth. But if an investor's primary goal is to dominate the rapidly growing South Asian consumer market, cricket provides an unmatched density of attention. Because the overall prize pool and the media rights are lower than FIFA's, cricket actually serves as a highly cost-effective entry point for absolute regional market dominance. Cricket leadership is aware of this ceiling, which is why they are currently attempting to export their product into high GDP Western markets, like the US, to break those geographic constraints. The cap on cricket's prize money persists as long as the revenue stays regionally concentrated, as market diversity is the primary driver for creating true financial scale.